Hi, I'm Christina and welcome to ChriskaYoga. Today we will be doing 3 of my favorite quad stretches. So these stretches are great for your quads. If you don't know where they are, they're this muscle here, the one that's right in the front of your thigh. These are some of my favorite quad stretches. They're great to do after running or after doing any kind of intense leg workout that works this muscle. It's always great to stretch them out afterwards. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. Let's get into these stretches. So the first stretch I'm going to be talking about is low lunge. Low lunge is probably the least intense, but still quite intense, and I'll show you how to intensify it a little bit further if you would like to. So it's the least intense of the 3 that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Generally, stretching your quads is an intense thing because we often sit. In our culture, we sit all the time, and sitting creates a lot of tension and shortness in this area here, which is where the attachment is of the quad muscle. So yeah, stretching it out can be quite intense, especially if you're not used to it, if you don't do it often, and if you're sitting down all day, as most of us are. So to come into our first pose, low lunge, come through your hands and knees, that's totally fine, and then bring your right leg forward. You can bring the right knee directly above the right ankle. If the back knee is down, which is where we will be keeping it for this pose, some say that it is safe to not be so careful about having your knee tracking above the ankle on the front leg. However, I personally like to always practice on the side of caution and create good habits so that when we're doing other poses in this position, we always keep this in mind, knee above the ankle. However, it is up to you, but when we are doing standing poses with the back leg straight, it is always important the knee of the front leg tracking above the ankle. So once your legs are settled, your back leg is on the ground, the knee is on the ground, the top of your left foot is on the ground, and you're looking down. Keep as much length in your spine as possible. Press the hips down towards the floor. You're getting the quad stretch on the back leg. So the left leg here is stretching the front hip area, the hip socket, and the quadricep muscle. So you should start to feel a deep stretch here if you're quite tight in that area. In order to deepen this stretch, if you're not feeling that much of a stretch here, perhaps you're a bit more flexible in your quad and you want a bit more of a stretch in this pose, you can bend the left leg and hold on to the foot with your right hand. So you're coming into somewhat of a twist, and you may need to adjust this left hand on the floor to help kind of give you some leverage to open your shoulders to be able to reach that foot. And then once you're holding the foot, you can press the hips down once again and feeling a little bit of a deeper stretch in that area. Once again, this is quite challenging, especially if you are tight in this area, and you can always keep this foot down, and that will definitely stretch the quad as well. The next pose I'm going to be talking about is something that I hate. I hate this pose, and that is because it is very intense. And when I was in my teacher training, they called it King Arthur. I've spoken about this pose several times on Instagram, on here, YouTube, and I've spoken about my hatred of this pose. So that just basically means that I need to do it more because my quads are probably too tight. So I'm going to share this with you. It's a great quad stretch, something that we should all be doing probably on a regular basis. So I use my blanket here, and I place the blanket in this rectangle shape at the wall, the rounded edge towards the wall, and that's where my knee is going to go. So taking the right leg and placing the right knee at the wall, put weight onto your hands so you can shift the left leg forward. You can get into this pose multiple different ways. If that way is too awkward or too uncomfortable for you, you can begin in a lunge sort of pose by stepping this leg forward and then placing that knee at the wall, at the corner. And your foot, if you can see my foot, is pointed up towards the ceiling, and This is basically the pose at the least amount of intensity. You can keep your hands down. For an even more intense quad stretch, you can lift your torso up and bring your hands to your left knee. As you can see from the change in my voice, this has become quite an intense stretch. This is a very intense quad stretch, and you want to avoid keeping or having a sway or an arch in your low back. You want to maintain a flat, neutral spine as much as you can here. If you need to stay down on your hands, you can also place blocks underneath your hands here, and this just kind of lessens the stretch. And once you're settled wherever you are in this King Arthur stretch, you can press your hips forward or down towards the ground and breathe into any discomfort you might be feeling. Make sure that you do both sides to keep the symmetry in your body. Do the same for the low lunge stretch that we discussed earlier. You want to stretch both sides. To come out of this pose, just simply turn the leg so that the foot slides down the wall. And as I said, switch sides. My next pose is just as intense, or it can be, except I like this one a little bit better because you're lying flat on your back. So come to lying on the ground. So hug the right leg in and flex the right foot. You're going to be holding this shin in your left hand, hugging it in towards the chest. Here's where it gets a bit interesting. So take the left leg and turn it out from the hip. So turn that whole leg, keeping it bent, turn it out from the hip. And then reach for your left foot with your right hand. So now that you're holding your foot, you can also hold onto your ankle, depending on your flexibility. We're going to be placing that leg on the ground. So here, you want to avoid coming into an arch here, just as we did in the King Arthur stretch at the wall. You want to avoid this arch in your low back. So prioritize keeping the back on the floor, and that may mean that your leg on the floor, so the left leg in this case, will come up a little bit. So definitely prioritize keeping the back on the floor as opposed to keeping the leg on the floor. So you want to maintain a neutral spine. So hold here, breathing deeply into your stretch, feeling any breathing into any discomfort you might be feeling. This is also an intense stretch, as I said. However, it's not quite as intense as the King Arthur stretch, which is why I like it a little bit better. And as I mentioned, you will need to do both sides. For all of the poses that I discussed, you'll need to do both sides to maintain symmetry in your body. Another thing to mention is that you can hold these stretches. I always recommend 3 to 5 full breaths, and you can do this once a day. You can do it every other day. It just depends on how sore you become. You just want to be mindful that you don't overdo it and overstretch, and you want to also be mindful that if you're ever feeling pain in your attachments of the quadricep muscle, so any sharp pain by the top of the knee or any sharp pain in your hip sockets, that's where the muscle attaches to the bone, you want to come out of the pose or lessen the intensity of the stretch, because we don't want to create damage in that area. So you don't want to create any damage in the attachments of the muscle. You just want to feel a dull stretch, a dull aching in the middle of the muscle. And that's just a good general tip overall for stretching. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up down below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for weekly free yoga videos and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming free yoga videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.